Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Brown Bagging It. I am your host, Marty Jalove, along with my friend, CJ Powers, and the absolutely incredible Christine Crow. Hello, everybody.
How you
How
doing
are you
today,
guys
Marty?
doing? How are you doing? I'm doing fantastic, CJ, and you? How are you?
Good. I've been looking forward to this. I got my lunch all together and put it into a brown
Nice.
bag. Unfortunately, there was a hole in the bottom and it fell straight through to the floor.
Oh, man. I never go anywhere without my brown bag. I'm always packing something here. All right. Christine, I saw yours. Awesome. Glad.
I do
Glad.
have my brown bag.
All right. Well, I just want to remind everyone who's watching that we're here every single Tuesday. And this show is all about bringing you the leaders out there so that we can all learn together about how we can learn to become better leaders and succeed in those things we want to do. All right. So, Christine, you want to add anything? What's in your brown bag today?
Oh, today's brown bagging it is from the garden for me, actually. I brought some tomatoes.
Baby tomatoes.
And some cucumbers. This is a lunch that nobody would trade with me, probably. I would just be sitting at the table, quite content to eat my own food.
Nice.
Pudding.
That's the type of brown bag it is for me.
Well, I looked in my bag, and I don't know if I want to show you yet, but I have a very special little book here that could be very much from our guest today. All right?
Ooh,
All right.
Wow.
So, yes, the perfect way to start our day. All right, and a read right through lunch.
right? And that book is also an audio book. So if you are a walker or somebody who takes trips, that's a great book for that.
It is absolutely wonderful. I've listened to the audiobook, and now I'm halfway through reading it again. So it's beautiful. I highly recommend it.
So what's it about, Marty?
This is called The Good Morning Mind. All right. And it is the perfect way. It's the essential mindfulness habits for the workplace. All right. The author, my good friend Theresa Puskar, talks about connecting the mind and body in the workplace, understanding what's going on inside your heart and in your soul and in your brain. It's great for managers. It's great for employees. It's got such great tips on communication, which made her the ideal choice for our show today, because today we're talking about using communication as a strength in leadership.
Marty, I have to say, the thing that I found so funny is when you said my good friend and then you accidentally stumbled on
Mispronounced
your
name. Right?
I mean, that's a classic. Of course, that's like me and your last name. How many times have I purposely, humorously called you something different? And then
Yes.
when I go to introduce you for real, it's like, oh no, which name was it?
I can't remember how to pronounce it.
You know what, though? Teresa has a name. I saw Teresa's name many, many, many times before I ever got to talk to her in person, because she has more than just one book out there. She has many books. She's an actress who's been in shows and stuff.
Yes.
So I don't know about you guys. I learned my way of saying her name just from reading it on a page or whatever, and then later met Teresa and learned the correct way.
There you go. I think that's how we all did it. Right. And you're right, Christine, that Theresa is not only a great author, she is an incredible speaker, an actress, an educator. There is nothing, it seems like, this woman can't do. All right. She is just incredible. And she's got she's so in tune with the mind that you can just spend 30 seconds with her and it will repair 30 years of hardships in your life.
But this is huge too. Oh, there she is.
There you are.
Welcome, Teresa.
All right, I'm not going to speak. That was too good an introduction. We'll leave it at that. Goodbye.
All right. Bye, everybody. And that was our show.
How you been? It's been the last time I think I saw you in person. It was back when you were doing your one-woman show and you were traveling, and I know you were up in the Midwest and down in Florida, and you were all over the place. How have you been since?
I've been getting old and bored sitting at home doing nothing is what I've been doing.
I was about to say, don't worry, we won't ask you to do impersonations, but I know deep inside you can't hold her back.
It's who I am. It's part of me. No, it's been a real journey the last year and a half. a lot of inner work, a lot of introspective work. And where I've complained to my daughter about technology for her lifetime, and now I'm like, thank God for Zoom, for technology, and for connection virtually. So
Yeah.
grateful for it.
Do you find, Theresa, using Zoom, do you find, what are the pros and cons as far as communicating via Zoom as opposed to person?
One of the pros is I can have notes all over, and I'm sure you guys know, I know Marty, you do that. I can have notes on the sides of my screen if I don't have a memory, and you can glance over. So you can get away with that. Whereas if you're in front of a public group, you don't have that option. I think getting used to Zoom and getting used to connecting with that little green light at the top of your computer can be just as powerful as having an audience. Almost nothing's as powerful as an audience with you. But I think Zoom being able to connect us from all over. I have been dancing with my sisters for a year and a half every Thursday morning up in Canada. So we get to connect and enjoy and laugh together. And I feel more connected to them since the pandemic, because prior I'd visit Canada once or twice a year and that was it. So it can bring people from all over the world together in a very powerful way.
That's incredible. Now, Theresa, I want you to speak a little bit on this book. And I know you've got another book that you'd love to speak about, but this one I love because it really is, it's the embodiment of learning how to become a better communicator in the workplace. So can you tell me, just give us a little hint to those people out there, so they might want to pick this book up. Like, what is one of the major hurdles that we can see a fix in this book?
Thank you for asking. There's 9 habits in the book, but I'm going to focus on a couple of things, what strikes me right now. The first one is being as present as you can when others are speaking. And if you think about it, for example, being on the air right now, I can be listening to Marty or Christine or CJ and thinking about what am I going to say next, or I can be actively listening where I am sitting and present with them and trusting that what will arise when necessary. So in communication, especially as a leader, to be an active listener, to get quiet, get out of your crazy mind and just be present with the other person, they feel it energetically. And then also there's a sense for me that's really big right now, is a sense of integrity and transparency. So, for example, if an employee makes a mistake, if I'm a leader, I have to be able to say to my staff, you know what, I made a mistake here, and own it with confidence. And that gives them permission, because if they are so frightened and fearful of making mistakes, they won't innovate, they won't create, and you won't get the best out of them. So those are 2 biggies right now.
I'm sorry, Theresa, did you say something? I wasn't listening.
Well, Marty?
I think something else that I picked up while reading The Conscious Cup was there's some thought that goes in before the communication. And the story that I'm only partially recalling it right now, but it was somebody that you did not connect. It was an engineer in the sound studio that you did not connect with. You tried a bunch of different ways. And I really grew a lot listening to that story and hearing how much time and energy that you put into the connection outside of when you were actually with that person. I thought there was a lot of value. Can you recap that for us?
Sure. Thank you for that, Christine. That's one of my favorite stories and situations. So I was an audiobook producer at Nightingale Conant Publishing. And one of my engineers was giving me a little bit of trouble with one of the authors. I'd ask him to do things. As the producer, you're kind of the boss. And he was confronting me and confrontational. So when the author left, I talked to him because we were having Marianne Williamson come in, who had never been in studio. We only got live material, and I was the first producer to work with her. And so I really wanted to do a good job. So I said to the engineer, I said, did I do something to annoy you? Is there something I should shift? You seem angry or aggravated. And his response was, no, I don't like people. I just don't like people. So this is where the pre-effort came in. So we had 3 weeks before Marianne came in. And I thought, personality to personality, I wasn't able to connect or work with him. I didn't get anything out of it. But that wasn't the end. So every night before I went to sleep, I would talk to him soul to soul. And in my mind's eye, in my imagination, I'd say, hey, we'll call him Sam, hey, Sam, I really want this to work out with Marianne. It's really important to me. And can we connect and can we support each other? And I had a soul conversation every night for 3 weeks. Then Marianne came into the studio, and Sam was peaches and cream, easy to work with, joyful. So it's a very odd suggestion, but sometimes if we find, because personalities, we don't always gel, and people really push our buttons. But if we are determined to work it out, we don't have to see them there. We can actually work with them. And when I say soul to soul, it's almost like the little kindergartner. So we're both in the schoolyard of life. And so seeing them as an innocent little being who has their own troubles or issues, and then myself as that, and speaking to them from that place in our heart, it also changes my perception. Because for 3 weeks, right, I was connecting with this guy on a heart level. So perhaps even the shift came more from my perception. So when I walked in, my heart was open and he had a good vibe and it all worked out. So there's tools and techniques, and you don't necessarily have to be physically with the person. So thank you for that question, Christine. It's a fun one. So I encourage people to explore it. Somebody who pushes your buttons, start changing your mind about them. You can't change them. Start seeing yourself getting along really well with them. Start seeing your hearts both opening and connecting in your mind's eye, and just see if that shifts things.
And that's what I heard. I mean, for the experience is that you as a leader were receptive to starting some sort of change in yourself to connect with this person. And would you guys agree with that, though? As leaders, I think the expectation lies with the person who's the leader to make the change and accommodate for anybody else's communication barrier. I think that's part of what makes us great leaders.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
All at once now.
Right, we all jump into it at the same time. Right.
Well, at least we're in agreement, right? I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, I've been told many times growing up that if you're having lots of problems with the people in the room, maybe it's you. And sometimes a leader, when they're addressing issues, okay, they can see the real problems, but the solution maybe is you. Maybe there's a different way of approaching it to help the other person save face or do something so that they can regain who they are and learn how to communicate properly.
Yeah. Talking about communication, CJ, I'm picking up a little bit of an echo. I think your system might be set up in disco mode. I don't know if anyone else can hear this echo.
I think we're getting to talk to the man behind the curtain. It's like
there you go. There you go. That's it.
Okay. Does this adjust for the disco mode?
Yes. There you go. There you go. All right.
Darn. It was more fun the other way.
Exactly. We just needed some strobe lights, and I was there. I was there with you.
Well, speaking about fun, Marty, you want to introduce this next segment?
Oh, I get the rare pleasure of popping up and just adding a little levity to this show. What I'm trying to do is just put a smile on your face. So let's see what's up next. So I was watching this incredible documentary about how crows communicate. Yes, crows, the birds. It seems that crows congregate around roads because they like to eat roadkill. But in every flock of crows, there's a leader. One crow who stands off the road and he looks for traffic, all right, and he warns the other crows of what's going to happen, all right, and it's a great system of communication between these birds. But then scientists realize if this is such a wonderful system of communication, why is it that some crows still continue to get run over? So they did an in-depth study on this, and they realized that over time, certainly these crows did learn how to say car, car, but they never learned how to say truck, truck.
Okay, Marty, that's, you know, there's groaners out there and there's groaners.
Oh, come on, that was specifically for Christine, so I'm sure she's laughing that one up. All right.
So Theresa, I have a question for you. You know, you and I have kind of seen the dramatic side of you more times than not. One of the things that I notice is that you actually try to find ways to not only communicate verbally to the audience, but to communicate visually. And is there a way, I mean, you know, our whole topic today is about turning communication into a strength. how can we think about it from the perspective of visual communication?
That's a great question that I've never been asked, CJ. So as far as visual, we think that our communications mostly are words, but statistics and facts have proven that so much of it is our physicality. I think and again, it's because I got a background as a trained actor, but when we can play, when we can let ourselves go and become something different in our shape and the way we express visually, the more powerful. I did some graduate work as a director, and the head of the theater department was an artist before he was in theater. And so he talked to us about what are the pictures we're trying to put on the stage? What is the message through picture? So I would encourage, as far as leadership and business, I would encourage people to create an atmosphere of play, of joy, to give themselves and others permission to bounce off the walls, to throw ideas around. It has to be a very safe place. And in my opinion, as a leader, the more safety you create among your staff, the more juicy, innovative work they'll do. I've spoken to, as a director, I'll say to my actors, make the opposite decision. So if you have a character who seems like the villain, find times to make them seem like Pollyann. Play opposites. Play whatever comes to your mind. Make mistakes. And when I've done that, people say, oh, what a brilliant directing job. No. All I did was create a safe space for the actors, or in the business world, the workers, to be able to be their best, truest, most powerful self. And that's through play. So when I talk about physical, that extends to that area as well.
I love that answer. That's beautiful. And I'm trying to picture places I've worked at, either as a leader or as the subordinate, and listening. And I agree with you. Anytime you're put in a situation like that, it does make the workflow a little easier. I want to follow up with that a little bit, Theresa. Is a lot of what we're talking about is what we can do as leaders and how we can lead people. But you know that there's quite a difference sometimes between what we say and what the other person hears. Yeah. How do we know for sure that what we're saying is exactly what our people are listening to, or what they're hearing, and they're getting our message? Is there some trick that we can use to make sure our message is being conveyed properly?
Well, I think when you've got a meeting or a one-on-one, asking the group or the individual to play back. So in your understanding, and then reviewing yourself. So say the 3 topics we just discussed, just to be clear in the end and to put it all together. So summarizing the conversation, or having them summarize the conversation. But if you have them summarize, you have to do it in a way that's very respectful and very much, perhaps, the first thing I mentioned was ethics. What's your take on that? What's your feedback? The second thing I mentioned was camaraderie. What is your thoughts on that? So again, bringing it in review, and whenever you can, getting them to verbalize what they heard, because it's one thing to hear it from you a second time. It's another thing for them to verbalize it back to you. So whenever you can, do that. And of course, whiteboards, writing, summarizing. The big thing, and a biggie as far as slides and PowerPoint, all of that, people write too much. They write long paragraphs. Yes. So point points, bullets, very short, concise. So it's always paring down our communication.
Yeah.
Oh, you said whiteboard, and CJ got all excited. Go ahead, CJ. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, no, it's not because of the whiteboard comment, but the fact is, I remember back when I was working in the Fortune 100 world, I remember very clearly being in a meeting where the person that went before me had 64 slides. And he was going through them at about 3 minutes per slide, and he was given 1 hour. What happened next was funny for me anyway. He finally got halfway through the deck. His time was up. They said, look, just email me the slides. We'll look at it ourselves. Nice. And then it was my turn. And the customer looked right at me and said, now, CJ, you don't have 64 slides, do you? And I said,
I've got 65.
I said, I have 7 slides.
Nice.
And through the 7 slides, we moved into a very dynamic conversation and closed the deal all within an hour, just because We got to talk about what was really on their heart, what they were really hearing, what feedback they needed to understand, and how everything fit their circumstance. So I think sometimes, we lose track of those things.
Well, you brought up a really key thing, CJ, which is service. When you're nervous, when you're in the corporate world, when you're put on the spot, anything you're doing, for example, me here with you today, if my heart is focused on how may I serve the viewer, like you were in the meeting, you were about how can we serve the client,
Right.
and there was a close. And it takes the pressure off of us, because if we're lost in our ego and all about ourselves, it's stressful. So how may I serve is really key.
Yeah, I see a lot of people tend to lean on those slides as a crutch. And before you know it, it takes over the entire conversation. People are concentrating so much on the slides, no longer on what you're presenting.
Yeah, and I think this person had a really great comment here. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Is it Vextati? Don't know. Anyway, I think that there are times the slides have value. The challenge is when they get used in the wrong place, right?
Yep.
And how true is that? Because so often, people they go into a like an automatic mode, and they lose track of the fact that they actually have to pay attention to how things fit. And is it appropriate or not? And does this slide really need to be in there? And if not, let's pitch it. I think when we talk about communication as a strength, I think we really have to analyze what's the real message we're trying to communicate, not what have we always done. That didn't come out well, but you got to my point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would agree that there's got to be a balance between the audio and the visual, what we say and what we allow our audience to see. And so just like that balance, I would like to give Theresa a little chance to balance this out. You're telling us a lot of stuff, but Theresa, how can we get in touch with you, and how can, what else have you produced that we should definitely see or that we should definitely read?
No, thank you. So I have written 13 books with G&D Media. They're on Amazon. Some of them you don't recognize me in the title because I wrote the study guide. But I wrote it for classics like Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, all kinds of stuff. Sun Tzu's The Art of War. So if you type in Theresa Puskar as the author, you'll get that. You'll get my 2 books. Most recently, I did 8 Ways to Declutter Your Brain. And in that book, I have a lot of practical exercises along with a website you can go to in order to learn to calm the brain. And then the second one there, Marty was a narrator in, and he was one of my actors in The Good Morning Mind as well. So, and if you Google Theresa Puskar, you'll find way too many pages of all kinds of things from one end of the world to the other. So I'm full spectrum there. So thank you for asking.
Okay, so since you said Marty was involved in one of your books and
Yes.
he was an actor, what is it like to work with the man, huh? Because I don't have
great. He stepped in. I had another actor who was supposed to show up and didn't, and he showed up like an hour or 2 late. And so I said to Marty, can you take over? And that's another thing about communication. When one gets comfortable enough in their boots, when one can have a couple of bullets and know that they can do it, it comes from practice. And like Marty's like that. That's why we both connected in the beginnings. We're both very spontaneous. So that puts something else in their back pocket that other people can't have. So being able to be spontaneous, and that means being present. That means being, how may I serve? Sure. So Marty was all about that and did a fantastic job.
Oh, thank you. That check is in the mail, Theresa. Thank you.
So's mine, Marty. And of course, they can go to my website, www.theresapuskar.com as well. Mm-hmm.
That's a good place to go.
Yeah, highly recommended, without a doubt. Theresa, I didn't realize you had 13 books. That's incredible. I mean,
and 7 children's books. I forgot about my children. I've got 20 books altogether.
Okay, wow. Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Let's keep her on another 5 minutes and see if we can hit 30. CJ, do we have another? You want to take a break?
All right. Well, it's time for our youth moment. Do you want to introduce who the youth is today?
Yes.
Our youthful leader?
Yes, our youthful leader. So I got a treat. I ran into this young man, Li Fu Zhang, a while ago, and I was lucky because I was able to teach him some communication skills. I was asked if I could help him break out of his stage fright a little bit, but it turned out this kid needed no help in that regard at all. He was kind of a natural leader, natural speaker. He is just a funny kid, a great thinker. And then we kind of lost connection. And just recently we reconnected, and I found out he became an Eagle Scout, which is absolutely amazing. So I want you to watch this little video and just learn a little bit about him. And, he's definitely going to be a role model for a lot of other children. So take it away, CJ. So this is my friend Lifu. Lifu and I met about 4 years ago in a communication class. And I'm so excited because recently Lifu just became an Eagle Scout. Tell us about what it takes to become an Eagle Scout.
Well, the Eagle Scout rank is the highest rank in Boy Scout that you can obtain. And to do that, you need to demonstrate leadership within your troop and also outside your troop on a service project for a nonprofit organization.
Well, I know the service project's the big last thing, but you're making it sound really easy. There's a lot more work to it to get to Eagle Scout, right?
There definitely is. You need to also obtain 21 merit badges and each one shows your proficiency in a certain field.
Awesome. So you've been a scout for how many years?
I have been in Boy Scouts for 6 years.
Awesome. Congratulations. All right, so your service project. Tell us a little bit about your specific service project.
My service project was a landscaping project for a preschool. And what I had to do was I had to cut down some small trees and bushes and dig on the roots and then replant new bushes to replace them.
Wait, this was at a preschool. Now, did the preschool contact you and say, hey, this is what we'd like you to do?
No, I did everything by myself. I searched the project by myself. I decided what I was going to do, and I contacted the preschool, and I got all the materials by myself.
So you contacted the landscaping company, the nursery to get the plants and everything?
Yes.
Okay, tremendous. So that's a lot of communication. Now, there's no way you did this by yourself. Do you have a team of other scouts working with you?
Yes. I had to also communicate with scouts and their parents from my troop.
Okay.
Because I needed workers for my project. And in the end, I had 2 work days with 8 scouts and 2 adults.
And you were in charge of the whole
And I was
initiative.
in charge, yes.
Congratulations, that sounds incredible. So it sounds like everything went smooth. Did you have any problems?
I did have one.
Okay.
When the preschool was asking about the bushes, I have never done landscaping or gardening before. I don't really know a lot about bushes.
Okay.
And I got the wrong type of bushes from the nursery, and they were too big. So I had to...
And then what?
In the end, I came back to the preschool. They told me it was wrong. And I went back to the nursery and I talked to them and I said, these are too big. Do you have another type that you can recommend to me? And they agreed, and thankfully I received everything on time for the project.
Excellent. Well, all right. So in the end, you use your communication skills, get everything taken care of, right?
Yes.
All right. So what did you learn from that as far as the miscommunication and the proper communication? What did you learn?
I learned that when you're communicating by email, it is very easy for people to misinterpret, to misunderstand, and have miscommunication within the email. Because you're not face-to-face, you can't really tell if they understood you or not.
Okay, that's for sure, yes.
And I learned that I need to double-check and triple-check to make sure that what I'm getting is the ones that I want.
Excellent job. Excellent job. Well, you know what, Lifu, it's been great that we reconnected. But before you go, can you just tell the other young kids out there, what does it take to get to become an Eagle Scout? Or what does it take to become a leader in the future? What do they need to do?
The first and easiest thing that any kid can do is to not be afraid to stand up and ask questions, right? Because I see so many people, when the teacher assigns them homework, they say, yeah, I understand. And then they go home and they don't know what a homework is. And in situations like this, that's a miscommunication error. And you could just easily ask questions. I don't understand what this assignment is trying to do, right? I don't understand what I have to do for tonight's homework. And by doing that, you will make less mistakes in your life, and and when you communicate with other people, there will be less communications there as well, because you know that you have to make them understand you.
Okay, I understand. You know what? On behalf of the group of us here at Brown Bagging It, I want to congratulate you on becoming an Eagle Scout. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great day. Wow.
It was good.
What a great kid. We spent a little more than an hour together. We were talking and chatting, just catching up, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, you know what, we should be filming this. It was really good. Just a great kid, and I just like seeing these children that I've worked with when they were younger, and watching them grow up and just see how they're doing amazing things. Just absolutely amazing. This is probably my favorite segment. Nothing against you, Theresa, but I really love talking with these kids.
Okay, I'm taking the check back. I'm not sending it.
Tear that sucker up.
Well, you know what I mean, Theresa. You work with children a lot,
Marty,
too.
I know. He was wonderful. Yeah. He's a star leader already.
Yes, without a doubt, without a doubt. I look for him in the future. I tell all these kids all the time is that when you do make it famous, when you're on that red carpet somewhere, or if you're putting your first foot on Mars, doing something like that, remember to turn to the camera and go, I worked with Marty Jalove. Okay, so
I think it came out in the segment there too about being an Eagle Scout, the process that he went through, and that project really focuses on the kids not doing it, but essentially kind of coordinating it. They've got to find a problem and solve a problem.
Yes.
They need to work with others, find other people to fund it, and they need to communicate with their team. So pretty much any kid that you see that has achieved this Eagle Scout project, that speaks a lot to that they've already gone through this process, this leadership experience.
I think that's the part, Christine, you're right, that amazed me the most. I understood about this big program, that service project they had to do, but I didn't realize that he had to create the service project. This was his idea from the beginning. He approached the nursery and said, would you like me to do this? Then he had to go to the nursery to get the plants. He had to find a landscaper to help him with it. He had to get all these other scouts to help him and other adults. I mean, he did everything from, truthfully, the ground up. So from standing back, at first you think, the nursery the nursery school probably said, we could use this. Let's call the scouts and see if they could help. But no, it's the other way around. He created this project from the beginning and then made it come true. It's amazing.
And there's a lot of adults I know that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Say that again, CJ?
I said there's a lot of adults I know that are not capable of doing what he did.
Yes, right.
Okay.
Right.
I was going to say that his advice, too, about being willing to ask questions, whether you're an adult or youth, I mean, that is definitely one to tuck in your pocket and keep with you. I remember that feeling of being too scared to ask a question. I was worried that my question would reveal what I didn't know, that I wasn't as bright as the other people in the room, that I wasn't up to snuff. And when you overcome that and you realize everyone else wants to ask the question, or you are being more foolish not to ask the question and clarify, then you get to such a better space. I mean, I think being able to ask the question, there's a little bit of confidence gaining there, a little courage to get over it. But it's a super important and great advice that he gave.
Well, I think that goes back to the fact that you have always said, we already have that stuff inside of us. The key is, are we going to be bold enough to actually use it? Theresa, you were going to make a comment as well.
Well, just as a speaker and being a corporate trainer and doing a lot of the keynotes, it's really interesting. This is a tip. If you're on stage and somebody asks a question and you don't know, you can turn to the audience and say, what are your thoughts on this? Anybody here have a suggestion? And often it's the richest part of the speech. So something to kind of another trick in the back pocket is put it out to the audience. Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that we learn from being online too, as we go back to in person, is just the value of engagement of your audience. It makes a richer experience for everyone.
Absolutely.
So CJ, what do we have coming up next?
Well, it's probably time for the whiteboard moment.
All right.
It's another whiteboard moment. Let's look at Strength Decision Matrix. This is a matrix to determine which project that you're going to do that you're the strongest at. Because if you lead with your strength, the second project is a little bit easier to do because you nailed the first one so well. And then the third one, you might have to struggle a little bit, but because you got 2 great projects done and under your belt, you have the extra energy needed to do that third project. Some people try and do the really difficult, strenuous project first. And then as they finally get to the other project, they realize, I just don't have the strength to do what I excel at well. So we want to lead with our strength. Now, I don't know what these projects are, but let's make it up and see how this matrix works. Let's say that you're a creative writer, you're a copywriter, and you have 3 projects that need to be done. Let's say this one is a blog that you need to write. And let's say that this one's a small ad, maybe a social media ad. I'll put SM for social media ad. And then down below here, let's give this one something unique, a YouTube video, a short, a promotional piece maybe. And we'll just put a big YT here for YouTube. Now, I don't know which one I need to lead with. So I need some criteria to help me decide what the criteria is. And I'm going to weight the criteria. Now let's just say arbitrarily this one is money. Which one's going to pay me the most? And for money, let's give it a weighting of saying that it's worth 10 points. So I'm going to put a 10 points here. So this is going to be used as a multiplier up in here once we get started. This criteria here, let's say I want to work as few hours as possible so I'm more profitable. So we're just going to call this one hours. And let's say that it's not anywhere near as important as the money. So it doesn't need a full 10 points. Let's give it 7 points because it's still better than halfway important, but it's not really a full 10. And then for this last criteria, let's talk about how it's going to impact the customer. The return on investment. So we're just going to call this the ROI. This is our effectiveness marker. And for effectiveness, it doesn't impact us as much, but it does have a lot of impact on the customer and therefore impacts us. So we're going to give it an 8. So these are the weights of the points to determine which project is going to get started first. Okay, now every project, you're going to give consideration to it. You're going to say, okay, this blog, is it going to bring in a lot of money or a little money or a moderate amount of money? So you got HML, high, medium, low. We don't want to get into really difficult decision making and have that be another 10-point scale or anything like that. We just need a multiplier. So let's say that, blogs, yeah, they bring in some good money, not a lot of money, but not piddly money either. So let's go moderate here. So we're going to just circle that. Next, we're going to decide about this number of hours. Will there be few hours worked or a moderate amount of hours worked? Now, keep in mind, because we want to be more profitable, we want, when this number is a few hours, it gets a high rating, and it's a lot of hours, it gets a low rating. So this one's a little bit flipped, but let's say it's moderate. So we're going to go with the M here too. And then over here in the final column, the return on investment. Is it trackable? Is it something that the customer is going to measure and therefore consider whether or not giving us another project or not? That kind of thing. And I say, yeah, it is. It's highly trackable. They're definitely going to, the outcome of the previous blog will impact if we do future blogs. So we're going to mark it like that. Next, we jump down to the ads. Money-wise, yeah, it makes great money. As far as how many hours? No, there's a ton of hours used in ads. So we're going to say it's low as far as our trying to be as few hours as possible. We're not going to get there. It's going to be a lot of hours. So we're going to mark it as a low positivity. And then in this last category for the return on investment, again, it's going to be highly measurable. They're going to definitely want to know if their ad worked or not. For the YouTube short, YouTube shorts, will they make money? No one's making a lot of money yet, so let's just say low. Then, when it comes to the number of hours, you can put together a YouTube short really quick and get it out there. So we're going to say we got a high probability that there'll be a low amount of hours used. And then in the last category, the return on investment, again, because there's really no money involved, there's going to be very little return on investment regardless. Now that we know very quickly whether or not it's a high, moderate, or low chance of happening, or being beneficial for us, I should say, we're going to score it all. All H's becomes 9s, M's becomes 3s, and lows become 1s. So this M is going to be a 3, this M is a 3, and this H is a 9. This H is a 9, 1 for the low, another 9. Down here we got a low, so that's a 1. We got a 9 for the high, and a low for the 1. And there we have it. There is the point matrix. Now, because we have multipliers, remember money is more powerful, so it's a factor of 10. So 1 times 10 is 10. 10 times 9 is 90. 10 times 3 is 30. So these are going to be our scoring points coming over to the final total. And the number that's over here that is the highest is the one that we lead with, because that's our strongest capability. So here we got a multiplier of a 7, so 7 times 3 is 21. And we got 7 times 1 is 7. And 7 times 9 is 63. On the next column, we're at an 8. So 9 times 8 is 72. 9 times 8 again is 72. And 1 times 8 is 8. So now we need to total these up. So we got 30, 21, 72. That puts us at 123 for our total. This one, 97 plus 72, puts us at 169. And then we got 10, 63, and 8. That's about, I think that's 81. Okay, so there's our totals. And at this point, you have to say to yourself, you know, what number is the highest? Because that's the project that we're going to start with. So this project is going to be project number 1. The next highest is this one. That's project number 2. And this project is then number 3. So by leading with your strengths, you now know exactly which project to start on. You're going to start with the small ad. Then you're going to shift over and work on the blog. And then you're going to come around and work on the YouTube video. There you have it. That's what it looks like to make a decision using a matrix based on your strength and what to do next.
That's pretty awesome, CJ. I actually like that. I am a numbers kind of guy, so I like applying numbers to everything. I've never seen that before. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, the only thing I could have improved is when I wrote the red on top of the blue, I thought it would stand up better. It did not.
That's okay. We got the idea. We got the idea.
Yeah.
It's nice if you're confused. If it's a pretty complex project, then it makes it very clear, and that you've considered your criteria to get it through. So I guess it's, you know, a very nice finite way to see that you've considered everything and you've come to a clear decision.
Right.
Yeah, and the thing I like the most about it is this matrix can be used for other things too. Right now I structured it as a strength decision matrix so that you can lead with your strength, knowing which project you're going to excel at better and start with that one. However, if you want to turn it into an ROI decision maker, you change out the criteria, you change out the point system. Sure. You still have the high, medium, and low being 9, 3, and 1, because that's mathematically it always works. That's why the 9, 3, and 1 are chosen. But you can then find out, okay, which project is going to get me the biggest bang for my buck. You can do it that way too then.
In the military, we used it for risks and hazards to make decisions. So to assess with same sort of matrix.
Cool.
Yeah, I did something similar to it when I was teaching people when they wanted to expand their business and they wanted to take on new products or start learning new services. It was a matter of being able to rank those and say, wow, this one really seems exciting. But by putting it down on paper and analyzing it and putting a number to it, sometimes you realize what I really wanted to do is not necessarily the best decision. So I really like this system.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. You could use it at a church, like if you were trying to move forward with a certain program or not, and you're making a decision of which program to move forward with, you could compare the programs that way.
Right. It pulls the emotional decision out of it and makes it all very logical.
There you go. Well, it sounds like we've gone over a lot of stuff today.
Yes, we have. Yeah.
Strength in communication. It's important. Using communication as a way to be a stronger leader. And Theresa was wonderful sharing, some of her experiences and ideas. Her books are definitely, the first book is one that I've been through and is really an excellent book, one that you should get.
Yes, I've taken already a lot of notes on today's, so I have to go take a look in Theresa's website and find which books I'm missing. All right, maybe I will start out with the kids' books. To you, CJ, you look like you were about to say something.
Well, I was just going to say, I just saw the clock and our time is up.
All right. All right. Well, we'll call it an end today, but I do invite everyone to come back next week right here at this channel, the Brown Bag in the Channel. All right. You never know what you're going to see here, but what we do hope is to bring you a bunch of leaders so that you can learn about how to succeed in leadership, as well as we're going to continue learning as well. All right. So bye-bye, CJ. Bye-bye, Christine.
See y'all. Bye.
Bye-bye.